welcome to the May 24th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 allows for the continuation of remote meetings. As such, this meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast on Cable 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner. However, we have a quorum for everything we need a quorum for. Remind you guys that commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time, so we're not tripping over each other. And all the votes have to be done by roll call. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, it will be read into the record. And just to say it, if there's any glitch with the chat, we can still see your hand raised so we can move you into the hearing. So any comments or questions could be heard. If you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know with your hand raised on the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I'll call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearing is expected to be continued, 19 Meadowwood Lane, and we will be taking 7J Road out of order. It will be the first under the notice of intent hearings, just so you know. First order of business is going to be executive session under the Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss an open meeting law complaint brought against the Conservation Commission. Let me read my legalese here. So we're going to go into executive session and the public meeting will resume shortly thereafter. And as I said, the purpose of the session is because of an open meeting law violation allegation. So I will need a motion and a second to enter into executive session.
We're just about ready to enter executive session.
Make a motion to move into executive session, Pat.
Bird second.
We have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are going to enter into executive session and we will return shortly. Appears to be working just fine. Having said that, if you're having trouble putting a chat in, you can simply raise your hand and then we'll quiz you. So there's no reason that people can't participate. So again, we've returned from executive session and we're going on with the standard agenda. So the first item is request for a continuance under notice of intent. I'm sorry if I get this name wrong. Stanislav Keplikov, I'm sorry, 19 Meadowwood Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an existing deck, construct a new extended deck, install a fence, and install mitigation and restoration plantings. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 14th.
So moved, Harlow Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this until June 14th. Any questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until June 14th. Next up is a request for a continuance under an enforcement order. Susan and Gerald Bieber, 16 Lakeshore Drive North and 0 Lakeshore Drive North, map and parcel number 22-04-027-004A, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of vegetation and construction of retaining walls within conservation jurisdiction. Ms. Bergeron?
Yes, the applicant has requested a continuance until June 28th.
Okay, this has gone on for a while. Is there a,
We did receive a response from the representatives at Cape and Islands. Honestly, their workload is very heavy right now, and between all of their schedules and vacation schedules, they haven't quite finished. They are working on it, and I believe they would like to speak with staff prior to submitting the finalized plans.
With that said, Harlow Hawks, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
so they're moving forward. That's a good thing. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this till June 28th. Any questions or comments?
I
All
have
right.
a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to remind Alyssa, I'm not going to be here on the 28th if there are quorum issues.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Mhm.
So, okay, so Kevin's not on that quorum, so we'll still be okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Continue this to 6/28. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until June 28th. Next up, our request for determination of applicability. First up, Pinecrest Beach Improvement Association, 0 Pinecrest Beach, parcel number 029-000, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct accessibility and erosion improvements, install a kayak rack and remove invasive species. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So
Bird,
moved,
so
Harlow
moved.
Hawks. The second Harlow Hawks.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Harlow Hawks eye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff recommendation. Next up, Chappaquiddick Associates, care of DJ Boss, Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to resurface a paved roadway. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, staff recommends a +3 and 4 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed. And I can
Bird.
elaborate.
Bird,
Please.
so
So this is coming before you as staff attempted to make their way down Associates Road one day for a site visit and could not as the road was being paved. There are definitely over half of the roadway is estimated to be within the floodplain, and around 20%, perhaps more, of the roadways do fall within the 100-foot buffer to your resource areas. Typically, this board does see repaving, resurfacing, whatever your definition of that type of road work is under some type of permit, because they are in our jurisdiction. What I'll be doing is, as we've done over the past year, at least when the staff is recommending a positive, we would recommend that the board continue the hearing out. So you guys can go to the site. I can send you all the pertinent materials and you guys can review the project for yourselves. Ultimately, the applicant was stating that under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, resurfacing in the buffer zone and outside of land subject to coastal storm flowage does not require permitting. So they were simply coming to us to permit work within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Ultimately, the Conservation Commission is the body that permits work in both of those areas. And you do represent your local bylaw and the state bylaw. So any work should have come before you guys to review, particularly since resurfacing might require updated drainage in the roadways. So ultimately, that's what I would recommend you guys think about as you go out there and read the materials that I've sent in the staff report and I will send in the application, is to determine if this repaving rises to the level of reviewing the drainage on the roads. There was a little bit of dune vegetation damaged during construction. The roads are now very flat the entire way. There's no curvature to them. There's a couple speed bumps built in Cape Cod Burns. And yeah, ultimately we're at the staff level, our hands are kind of tied as permit should have come before you. But we're looking to see your comfortability with the paving and if it rises to the level of a notice, which would trigger the Massachusetts stormwater standards to review drainage, which could lead to parts of the road being torn up to add drainage if it was required.
All right, we'll hold for questions or comments. Courtney?
I put a motion to accept, and I think that the commission could second that and then vote not to approve it. And then they've got to come in front of us in some other form.
Okay, so on that point, just to clarify, we basically have three options. We can simply accept staff's recommendation of positives. We could actually put a motion of a negative determination if you wanted to tonight. And then the third option is, as Alyssa said, is continue it so that if anybody wanted to go out and look at it. I just want to be clear that there's options here. So we'll get to a motion in a second. I just want to give everybody the opportunity to speak if they want. Kevin?
Well, I'll withdraw, for the sake of the record, I'll withdraw my motion and we'll redo afterwards.
Okay. All right. Kevin, comments, questions?
I'm pretty much up in the air, but I'd like to hear some more discussion, but right now I would go with the positive.
Okay. All right. Maury?
I'd like to go out and look at it. It's hard to get out there unless you have a project. So, because of the guardhouse. But I'd like to go out and look at it. These are all existing paved roads because everything's paved out there. So
Correct.
it was just repaving what was there. And now you want us to look at if there were enough changes to it that would warrant a notice.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if we make the determination that it's, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it, de minimis, that then we vote a negative. Correct? Is that how we stand?
Yes.
All right. I would like to go out and look at it. The last time I haven't been out since it was paved, I'd like to just see what they did. There's only, just from recollection of knowing out there, there's in the dip when you go down, I saw the picture. I mean, NSTAR, Eversource, everybody has dug up that dune on that side. The picture that you showed, they put a muffler in it and then the next company comes and rips it up and then they put a muffler and then the next company rips it up. And that area is always low year round. I mean, if it rains hard, it's always low. So I just think that if anything, maybe some kind of ballast stone, like the town has the same problem on Chappaqua Road. So, yeah, so I think we should look at it and then make a determination, not make it until everybody sees it. That's all thank you.
Steve?
Maury said what I would have said. I don't have anything to
All
add
right.
to that. It's an interesting area, and the city's portion took a lot of work. The town's portion, excuse me.
All right, so when I first heard about it, I went out there and my question was like, because of winter damage and the work that Eversource did out there, did they simply like skim everything in lieu of, filling potholes every 22 feet? But it turns out they skimmed pretty much everything, but I'm not defending them, but I'm just saying that they went over what was already paved. It's not like they created new roads.
Right.
And I don't know if de minimis is the right word, but that's the word I would use. I'm not trying to influence anyone. I'm just trying to tell you, I went out there and it's, they didn't do all new excavation and all that. But again, I'm not going to steer anybody to anything. I think it would be smart to go out and look at it so you can make a more informed decision. So again, your options are somebody,
Do I get to say anything, Jamie?
yes. You're up.
Thanks. So my recommendation is to have a continuance. But I do have a comment. I'm a little disappointed with both the company who did the work and whoever's coming to us that they hadn't contacted the Conservation Commission first to see if any kind of permitting would be required for this.
Courtney, you had something else?
I think what I'm hearing is that they have to understand that they should have come and talked to us. And therefore, we might want to take a good hard look and maybe require them to put some drainage in as an afterthought, just to impress on them that they should have come and talked to us.
I don't want to punish
No,
people. I
that's-
just
No, I
want to
don't
take a
want to
look.
punish them, but in other words, I think there has to be a message. Listen, you're supposed to talk to us. How do you get that message across if you don't? I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't want to punish them, but how do you get that message across?
I think it's already gotten across that
You
we're going to
think
have
so?
a continuance. It's already gotten across.
And they've permitted everything else out there. I mean, docks and piers and roadways and, I mean.
And
So
they're
I
just,
would make a motion that we continue this till
Till
next
when?
week. Till next week, so we can all go out and look at it.
For
Well,
example,
Melissa?
Alyssa,
Just to note, we are not meeting next week as it is Memorial Day. Our next meeting is June 7th. I did speak with Cape and Islands representatives today. They expressed availability in the middle of July, but it's up to you guys when you would like to continue it to.
Cape and Islands for what purpose?
They're representing the project, I'm sorry. They filed the application,
For the RDA?
correct.
And when do they want to
continue
continue?
it 2 weeks, that's all.
They were wondering if it could be continued to July 19th. I told them that I would let you know that that was when they mentioned they had availability to come onto the Zoom and represent the project.
So were they here
But-
tonight?
I do see a hand raised. I know that I was going to mention that to you if you wanted to take any public comment at the moment. But I let them know that you did not have all the materials yet to really speak on it tonight.
I don't think it should go out till July, but
I don't either.
my opinion.
but,
I think-
but we can't, I don't think we can, the applicant has to be the one who continues to a date certain, doesn't,
They don't.
no?
It's your call.
Let's
Alright,
do it
so
till
who-
next week then.
Who has their hand raised and do we, and let's let
It's
them-
Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands.
Okay. Does he want to come in?
I believe that's what it indicates.
Let's hear him,
Okay.
please.
Mark, I'm promoting you.
There he is. Mr. Dib, you're up, sir.
Hi, Mark Davis, Cape and Islands Engineering. I just wanted to, I did not request a specific date for the continuance, so I just leave that up to you guys if you accept that or do something else. I legally, is an RDA legally allow you to enter the sites? I was just gonna, my only comment was that we can definitely facilitate you guys getting through the guard gate. I don't know if you've had any issues in the past, but I just want to make that note, we're more than happy to give a list of names or just do whatever you need to do to be able to visit the site. That's really my only input right now. We did hired after the fact and filed the RDA. So, I really don't have any other further comments, then we'll just definitely help facilitate getting in the property if need be. It might be allowed anyways under an RDA. That's really all I wanted to include at this time.
So typically, places like that, you stop at the gate, you tell them conservation, and they
They have
they
no
don't usually try to stop you. You just go fast enough, doesn't matter anyway. No. But I mean, if any homeowner were to prevent us from getting on site, I mean, that certainly isn't gonna help their project. So, I don't know why anybody would do that, but there it is.
So I'm
Thank you,
gonna
Mark.
stick with my motion.
Okay, so the
Next
motion,
week.
Yeah.
the second on the table is to continue this until the next meeting, which is
Till the-
June
right.
7th. So if that still works for everyone, that's the motion in a second. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're voting on this motion, which is to continue until June 7th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve. Steve, give me a thumbs up or. Thank you. All right. Hey, whatever works, all right, so it's unanimous. We have continued this until June 7th. So if anybody has any questions, well, Alyssa, you said you'd send out material. So anybody have any
Yes.
questions, just give Alyssa a call, and then go take a look for yourself. All right, next up, still under RDA's, Burrell Dana LLP, 108 Nashawina Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade an existing sewage disposal system to an IA treatment system. Kudos. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Carlo Hawk
What?
second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Steve. Steve, is that a thumbs up? You're on mute. Thank you.
Yeah.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are requests for a hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First item has been previously continued, which was 19 Meadowwood Lane. We are taking one out of order as previously mentioned. So that brings us to Teresa Mancini, number 7 J Road Realty Trust, 7 J Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a patio And I have the quorum as excluding Kevin and Steve.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I have promoted Tom Bunker to present his project.
Thank you. Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
All right, thank you, and thank you for juggling the schedule so you can get a quorum on for this project. I will, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I will share my screen and show you where we're at.
Thank you.
May I make a comment before you start? Jamie?
Sure. Yep.
So I'm participating using the, is it the Mullen rule?
On J Road, I don't have you as excluded.
Aren't I?
That's for Kerry Lane.
Oh, okay, forget it. Sorry.
All right, Tom, another
Okay,
co-chair.
thank you. I've been here once before and had a couple continuances to go over some changes. Last time there were a couple comments for how at least you could improve the project and our presentation, and one was to add some more positive drainage and not just the pervious paver, which is I agree it's somewhat of a misnomer because the pavers themselves are not pervious. It's the joint between them that causes the perviousness of the whole assembly. Notice I didn't call it a structure. I don't believe a patio is a structure. I'll still say that. So it has the same shape and form, but we have made a couple of changes to it. Before, I thought the applicant wanted it the sloping from one end to the other, and now we've changed it so that there are a couple of steps down at the left side. So it drops about a foot from the ground down to the patio, and then it's level. So it'll be level with the bottom of the steps at this point and level over to this, but there's a slight pitch away from, like a 1/2 of 1% away from the house. And we've added, so that will cause the water to be flow more slowly across and better able to go into the joints. We have added a trench drain at this location. There will be a slight pitch going down. Added a trench drain at this location here to take in water. There is as previously in the detail, there's a steel edging side of this, which is 1 inch above the surface. So it will again hold the water, but then if in a downpour, it will go into the trench drain, which is connected to, runs through a perforated pipe. So it'll collect all the water that drains through the cracks also. And that is connected to the existing leaching chambers. There were some large chambers put down when the house was built. And that was because the soil is very loamy, very fine textured loamy, and this is a large leaching area here. So it's in plan view, it's the same, but we've added leaching, which was one suggestion to move hopefully toward approval, but and also because this is in a zone B, not a zone A, it's in a zone B, but there's a requirement to show some improvement to the resource area properties. And so we have 11 native shrubs, either the Amelanchier or rather, no, Aronia, the chokeberry, red chokeberry, or Viburnum dentatum. There's, how many is that? 7 of them over here and 4 of them over here toward the shed. There is, a few weeks ago, we sent over permission from the neighbor to for her to maintain, or Teresa Mancini, the owner, to maintain a shed partly on this other property. So that has been approved. That was one of the concerns. There is a fence. I'll show you if you've been there. There's not just what you sometimes require along a zone A of a single rail fence, but there's actually a full split rail fence running here, other way, along both sides. So this is looking toward where there'd be 8 more shrubs planted in this end of the fence here. And no, sorry, 7 there and 4 down this end toward the shed. So I know that one of the concerns of the staff was that people hanging out on the patio might cause that activity to flow over into the this buffer. This is the full height split rail fence. I don't think that activity will flow over. I don't think this is contrary to the regulation that you have no structures within that buffer, and that's partly so that there's room to move around the structure for maintenance and repairs, and this patio will provide that for that movement around the structure, and I don't think it will be harmful to the environment. So I will take this down now. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for sending in all those revisions and giving us that great cross-section of how the patio will work. And that's really interesting to see how it's all connected. As I wrote in the staff report, simply upholding the regulations, staff's position hasn't changed on the project. Definition of structure aside, patios have been described, at least during some of these hearings, as structures, and either way, at least we can all agree it's not part of the present primary structure. The regulations do say that if the no disturbance zone is naturally vegetated, then a no structure zone is added on to that, simply as another added protection to the A zone in regards to any kind of cutting of the vegetation, disturbance of it, encroachment. If the board does approve this project, we would ask that you explain in detail why this type of hardscape is permittable in the no structure zone, simply so that we can further advise other applicants. This is not the first request we've seen for a patio in a newly developed lot. We have typically advised against it at the staff level simply because of the no structure zone regulation. But if the board sees this fit, it would be prudent to add a finding that this is not part of the present primary structure, cannot be used for an addition, a deck, anything like that in the future to encroach towards the A zone. We have to hold that, recall the measurement, Tom, whatever that line is. And if this is appealing because of its pervious nature, what exactly about this pervious nature would be acceptable to the board. And I'll digress from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, Betsy.
I have I don't need any further information. Thanks.
Okay, Courtney.
I have no comments.
Okay. Tom, does that trench drain go the whole outer length of that patio?
No, there was actually a last minute change in the grading of the patio, and it doesn't. But considering that it's the patio is flat, that's why I said it'll make it with a slight pitch toward the trench drain. But right now it doesn't go the entire length because of the last minute change and where she said she wanted it level. It will still, I mean, the steel edging would hold it, up to an inch deep of water, and then the water would go, if it gets that deep, would go into the trench drain. But you could certainly run it along the entire length if that was seemed like a proper condition.
Well, I mean, it should pitch away from the building, minimally. I mean, it's still gonna be flat. Right?
The patio, right now I have it shown flat, and I wasn't thinking exactly about that, but I actually would make it with a slight, even just a 1/4% pitch toward the trench drain inlet, or make that inlet the entire length.
Okay.
That can be accommodated to make better drainage, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, our rules aside, I mean, you don't want, a homeowner doesn't want the water draining towards the building.
No, it's a 0.5% away from the building.
Okay.
That puts it toward the steel edge, the fence side of it.
Got it. So you're talking level from, if you will, one side to the other. Okay, I got
Yep.
it. Maury,
No comments.
Okay.
The information was enough for me to make a decision.
all right. All right. Anything else from the board? Ms. Bergeron, do you see anything in the public chat function, please?
I do not see any hands raised.
All right, quorum of 4. What do you
Make a
think?
motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third,
Gladfelter.
second,
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
third,
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Arlo Hawk's eye.
it is unanimous with this quorum. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Okay. Thank you for listening.
All right,
Night, Tom.
He'll be back.
Oh, all right. Not good night then.
all right. Maury, are you leaving us at this point?
I'm headed out.
Bye, Maury.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye, Maury.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so let the record reflect, Maury left us at 8:10. All right, next up is Patricia and Christopher Bradley, 74 Nursery Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a deck and rinse station and to install mitigation plantings. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. I have promoted Mike Ball up to present his project.
Hi, everyone. Start my video here. There we go.
The ball, you're up.
Good evening. Mike Ball from Marsh Meadows Environmental. I'm a wetlands consultant. I'm representing the Bradleys this evening, who own 74 Nursery Road, 0.32 acre site. They would like to add a 304 square foot deck, elevated deck off the back of their single family residence. The plan.
Excuse me,
that-
Mr. Ball, are you intending to share your plan?
I can. Hold on a minute. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So engineering works, whoops, did that plan. So existing house recently had its septic system replaced, and the Bradleys would like to put an elevated deck of dimensions 14 by 20 on the back. It will be a 2nd-story deck. A couple of images I provided in the notice of intent that I hope you can see, showing where that deck will go. That's an approximate boundary of the proposed deck. That's a better image right there, showing the existing conditions. As you can see, the rear yard is relatively unmanaged. No fill will be needed to be added or replaced. No native vegetation will be removed. In accordance with your regulations, we will be adding a mitigation area, which is that consists of 50 native shrubs. I believe based on staff report, we did exceed the proposed mitigation amount by some square feet. The project itself is in the outer 50 feet of the freshwater wetland buffer zone. Mitigation will be provided in the inner 50 feet of the buffer zone to this isolated wetland. No rare species issues. I do believe it meets the requirements for Zone A, Zone B mitigation and does serve the interests of both the Wetlands Act and your bylaw. And I'd be very happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. You can stop sharing now.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. Thanks for the presentation. One of our questions was just looking for a little more information on the silky dogwood. It's not one that we're too familiar with, so that handy dandy printout was actually for me. So thank you for that. And it looks like it does provide not only a thicket for wildlife, but it looks like it fruits and good for insects. So definitely has some wildlife habitat value. It looks like it's a larger plant. So plants are proposed at 4 feet on center. The board does typically require mitigation to be 3 feet on center. So I'll let them address that if they had concerns. There was a note on your planting plan that's alluded to if there were any substitutions to be made to the approved plantings that another could be chosen off the Cape Cod Cooperative's extension list. I would ask that they come through the staff just so we can be in the loop and understand what's going to be planted and it's in alignment with what the board usually requires.
Of course.
I did send a photo, Mike. There's just sort of a leaf pile that's accumulated in the backyard, which will be right behind where the mitigation is, if that can be removed, just to try to keep the buffer as naturally vegetated as possible. That would be
Okay,
great.
that shouldn't be a problem.
Excellent. And our only other note was it looked like that the wetland did show some vernal pool characteristics that's not identified as one. I reached out to Mike. He did say that when he evaluated the project, it wasn't quite the right time to go down and look for all of the wildlife that was down there. After speaking with Mark in the office, it does seem that that could have been the right time. So ultimately, we're just not quite sure if that wetland could be a potential vernal pool. So it would be up to the commission if they would like that to be looked into further. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
I have no comments. Thanks.
All right. Courtney.
No comments.
All right. So I'll just expand on that point that Alyssa made, that if Mike didn't find evidence of it being a vernal pool, I'm saying this correct, and Mark agreed that it would have been the correct time to evaluate that, then the fact that it's not a vernal pool would be accepted, no? Is that a convoluted way of saying that?
Nope, that's kind of in line. I did reach out to Mike here. He had said that he went out sort of in the late March, early April, and that didn't quite coordinate with his timing for evaluating vernal pools. Mark's timing was a little bit different, how that could have been a good time to look. So ultimately, we just don't know. According to Mark, I guess a little bit earlier in the spring around the Cape and the type of weather that we had seemed to align with Mark's thoughts.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, typically in a March site visit to a vernal pool, it's too early, even early April, it's too early for egg masses to show. You certainly can hear vocalization of amphibians at those times. And when I find an isolated wetland, I always listen for vocalizations. I did not hear any. Of course, my site visits aren't that long, so I'm not there in the morning or the evening. So no vocalizations were observed. And I haven't been back since my last visit to check if there are any egg masses in the system itself. So based on what I've seen at the site, I wouldn't be able to certify that as a vernal pool, but certainly with additional field work, one might be able to certify a pool if there were egg masses appearing. But in any case, I think for vernal pool, not a vernal pool, I think this project would have no adverse impact on the resource area values itself.
Kevin,
No questions at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay, Steve,
I have no problem with the 4-foot on center. There's very interesting selection of plants. Seem to be much larger potential than we normally see. That was the only comment I had. Thank you.
all right. Alyssa, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I see no hands raised and no chats have come through.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, what are you thinking?
So I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Anything else? All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Good
Have a
night.
nice night.
Thank you. You also.
All right. Next up are continued requests for a hearing under notice of intent. Sandra L. Stows and Robert J. Volpe Jr., Sandra L. Stows Trust, 115 Lucerne Avenue, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to construct a one-car garage, reconfigure the driveway, install drainage, reconstruct a retaining wall and steps, and install mitigation plantings. And I show the quorum as excluding Betsy.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir. Welcome back.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be back. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker. I was here with this project, I think just 2 weeks ago. We took a brief recess so we could meet with staff on site. We did so and then submitted some more information, revised the plan, which I will show you now. Okay. So, if you remember the project, I don't have to go into the description of it too much, other than we were focusing on the south end of the site here because we have a garage addition, which is mainly what it was about, the garage addition and rebuilding the retaining wall, resurfacing the driveway over here and adding drainage in this area where presently none exists for the driveway. But staff had questions about the north end, particularly an area in here where the homeowner had been cutting clearing out invasive plants and transplanting in rescues from other properties, partly up on where they're building housing up the hill to the north of there. And so when we met with Alyssa and Jen on the site, there is area in here where there was a lot of mulch. This fenced garden had hosta and other perennial ornamentals in this area, and there was mulched area. And this fenced garden had chicken wire around it. A lot of trees down, kind of laid around. This is like a little corral, somewhat to the owner explained to have a little refuge where rabbits could go to get away from coyotes. And just yesterday, I think he wrote an email saying that describing how a snapping turtle had come up and wandered around and finally laid her eggs. I can't remember if that was in the sand or up in this area that they were working in, but it is an environment, but it's been disturbed. And so this area here, we added it, continued the Zone A, 75-foot land under salt pond, Zone A, to this area here, and outline roughly the area that's most impacted by the where it has a higher density of ornamental plants. And some of that is outside of the Zone A, but basically we and the owner are instructed to revegetate. A planting plan will not be required because the owner knows really pretty much what to do. He's good at planting and moving things. So this is the area about 1,400 square feet where he will be moving out all of the non-native ornamental plants out of here and moving back in, or from wherever, native plants into this area and make it more natural, native, and less maintained looking. We had also outlined the planting area, the mitigation area incorrectly. We hadn't taken account some of these existing shrubs and some of the other grasses that were here. So we located the existing shrubs, which are these circles, and put the 412 square feet of native shrubs landward of all of that. So this line of planting did come a little further landward than what we had shown on the original plan. That, I believe, covers what we were asked to do. Oh, we also had Mark Manganello. Also, we submitted the BVW data sheet for this edge of wetland through here. So I think that covers what we were requested to do.
Thanks, Tom. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Yes, for sending in those BVW data sheets. I saved those to the file. As Tom said, Jen and I did meet on site with him and the homeowner to discuss our lingering questions about the property. The homeowner is very savvy on his native plants, so we didn't think a restoration plan was necessary, but rather we could work with the homeowner, have him augment what natives are already in the area and simply move out the more perennials, non-shrub materials to elsewhere on his property. And we would recommend conditioning that this restoration component is complete prior to us signing off on the building permit for the garage. But other than that, those are my only comments. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Commissioner comments? Courtney.
I have no comments.
Kevin?
Sounds very positive so far.
Steve?
I'd like to thank the owner for getting together and for Tom for laying this out for us. As usual, with these continuances, they're all set to go.
Excellent. All right. Alyssa, do you see anything in the public chat function, please?
I do not see any chats and I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to close the hearing and put it under advisement. Betsy, mute your.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right. Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you again, and good night.
Night, Tom.
All right. Next up, we already heard. This brings us to 60 Kerry Lane LLC, number 60 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to conduct invasive species management and restoration and the Vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B. And before anybody starts, the quorum excluded Betsy, Courtney, and Maury. And we've asked Betsy to review it under the Mullen rule so that we have a quorum. And she has done that. So she is on the quorum for this record. And that's all I have to say. So, Mark or Katrine, I don't know which one of you are going to start.
Hi, good evening. This is Katrine from Wilkinson Ecological Design. I think I have the majority of the conversation tonight based on the revised plan we submitted. So I will share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we heard your comments in the last hearing. I wasn't the presenter. It was Matt from our office, but he was unavailable tonight. And we made the following revisions. So first, I think that one of the largest conversation points during that first hearing was the oak that is right here along the pathway and right on the edge of the view corridor. So now we're no longer proposing to remove that. It was right on the within the view. So we thought it was reasonable to propose to manage it, but we're no longer doing that. We are asking just to prune the one, there's one limb, one or two limbs that are extending into the view corridor, but otherwise that tree will be left in place. So that was the first change. The second change, you'll see we've added 4 trees on our plan, 1 black cherry and 3 holly to replace the 3 smaller oaks that we're proposing to remove. And third, there were comments about plant selection, particularly sweet fern, I believe. So we've reduced the number of sweet fern that we were proposing, and instead we have added some more shrubs like beach plum and inkberry to replace some larger shrubs. And just to clarify one thing about, I think there were some staff comments about the flush cutting proposed within the view corridor in this area. And I don't think our plan is as clear as it could be, but we're not proposing to remove or flush cut all of the vegetation within there. It's really focused on previously managed leggy single stem shrubs that are kind of struggling right now. And we talk about that on page 4 of our land management plan. So for example, if there was a bayberry there that was growing well and hadn't been managed previously historically and had a nice biomass, we would just leave that as it is. It's really the leggy single stem struggling species that are kind of being outcompeted right now. So the idea would be to flush cut that and allow it to regrow to increase the biomass of those shrubs. So, and it also is consistent with the view corridor, but it's just focused in that area. But I just thought I would clarify that we're not talking about like wholesale flush cutting of all the shrubs in there. It's just targeted to the things that really need help. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Katrine. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I have no additional information.
Okay. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. I guess my one lingering question then about the flush cutting is if you had to estimate in that area shown on your plan of natives, do you know about what percentage of that is the leggy single stem shrubs that would be flush cut?
I would say it's less than half. It's hard because you don't really notice them until you're in there struggling in amongst the shrubs, but there are some nice bayberries and things that have already been wind pruned just because of the existing conditions there. So I think that's probably the majority of the stuff that's in there. So it would be, it wouldn't be, and we would be very mindful. We're not looking to, clear that area. So I without really having an accurate number, I'd say it's definitely less than half.
Okay, thank you. That's my only comment.
All right. All right. Kevin, we're going to jump right to you. Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry. No
right.
question this time. Thank you.
Okay. Steve?
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Would like to be invited back in 2 years to take a look at it. It's going to be beautiful.
Sure.
All right. Betsy,
So it was interesting doing this hearing by watching the tape. But I was really impressed to see your plan that came in and thought you addressed the concerns in a good way. That's going to make a nice project.
all right. Melissa, do you see anything in the public chat function, please?
I do not see any chats or hands raised.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. What do you think?
Make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Katrine.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thanks for reviewing that, Betsy.
You're welcome.
All right, next up is a continued request for a certificate of compliance. Barry Beater and Eileen O'Connell, 286 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. Request for a certificate of compliance for Mass DEP number 25-3842. Ms. Bergeron.
Thank you. Yes, this is the final hearing for a request for a COC. If you recall, we came before you starting in February and then in March. We've been working with the homeowners for some time to finish up their plantings. They had struggled in a couple areas, so we asked the board if they could plant in a new area to
Oh, yeah.
yes, to sort of fulfill their planting requirements. So you
Right.
guys had allowed them to do that. I did go out there a week ago and it looks great. They've been communicating with me the whole time about the plants that they've put in, the size they are. They're watering them and it looks very good. So I attached a couple photos for reference and we would recommend that compliance is granted.
All right. Questions or comments? All right. Steve?
I happened to be able to take a look at the site and concur with staff's recommendation. It's really, it's a great improvement. It looks very good.
Oh, good.
I'd move to issue an
Certificate of compliance.
certificate of compliance. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Bird second.
All good. All right, we have a motion and a second to issue a certificate of compliance or to accept staff recommendation to issue a certificate of compliance. Any other questions or Betsy?
Yeah, I just want to thank Alyssa for pursuing this and making the suggestion that was followed. And it was, it's kind of nice to see, and it's nice to hear that there's been good communication.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here.
And kudos to the homeowners for sticking with it.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to recommend issue a certificate of compliance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
it is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, our continued request for hearing under an enforcement order that had been previously continued earlier tonight. This brings us to vote orders of conditions. First up, Robin Canna, 24 Lakeshore Drive North, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes.
And
oh,
I'm sorry, the quorum excludes Maury and Melissa.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so this project was for the home reconstruction on Lakeshore Drive North. The home unfortunately had experienced a fire last year and is heavily damaged and needs to be reconstructed. They are pretty much sticking to the same footprint. They are adding on a front porch though, which is where a lot of the mitigation comes from, also in response to an increase in deck size from many years ago. They are repairing the boardwalk and steps that go down to the water. In terms of, I believe, our discussions on the project, staff would just recommend that when the access stairs are reconstructed to make sure that they do not reach the water, or that would need some kind of Chapter 91 permitting. I believe someone mentioned at the last hearing, if they were to consider constructing a rinse station, they would need to come back for an amended order. And those are all my notes.
Anybody have anything they want to see in there different?
No, thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Nyes Neck Association, Inc., 0 Westwood Road, parcel number 041-0 or through 046, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, so this is the beach nourishment project proposed off of Westwood Road in the Nyes Neck Association in North Falmouth. They are proposing, let me see here, total volume of sand will not exceed 150 cubic yards over the duration of the project. They have sought beach nourishment in previous years in 2009 and 2017. I believe they provided us with cross sections. This seems to be a very straightforward type of beach nourishment project. So we did not have any new comments or suggestions for special conditions at this time, other than the usual.
Okay. Anybody want to see anything else in there?
No. Thank you.
All right, what are you thinking?
Make a motion to accept to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
Okay, just for the record, the quorum excludes Maury and Melissa. All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, N-Star Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, 395 Mill Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Let me grab my big binder here. This is the third variation of the N-Star Eversource project we've seen in this area, specifically in reference to replacing the 1986 cable. It has reached the end of its lifespan after many faults over the years. It will terminate in the Mill Road parking lot, in which they are installing 2 new manholes, and the cable will be installed with directional drilling. And it will connect to the Eversource substation off Stevens Lane.
All
I
right,
don't think we had any special comments. We did receive the natural heritage letter late because they had some flaw in their system. But I think we were just going to mimic any previous guidance we've received from National Heritage in that area.
like time of year restrictions, that sort of thing.
Correct. Mhm.
Yeah, okay. All right, anything anybody else wants to see in there? All right, what are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have, excuse me, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. There's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous, and again, just for clarification, Maury and Melissa are not on this quorum.
That was a really good presentation. That was really interesting.
It actually was, I mean,
Yeah.
some of those things, you know, on what you can comprehend, you know, I mean, the way they do the drilling and all that, it's pretty interesting.
It's fun,
You know,
yeah.
And they
And Dwight's a
clearly know
good,
what
you
they're
know,
doing.
he's a good, yeah, I mean, he put it in our terms, you know, well,
Right.
I'll say my terms, I don't know about you guys, but I could follow it, you know?
Yeah, but
Uh,
I was impressed that he knew the history when I asked about when the first ones were done.
Right.
You know, and he went in and he knew when the chapter 91 permits were done and stuff. Yeah, that was fun. And Courtney asked the question about the plowing and yeah, it was good.
All right, so we'll invite him back.
All right.
All right, next up, Town of Falmouth, 0 Catherine Lee Bates Road, which is in this case Shivricks Pond, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum excludes Betsy, Maury, and Melissa.
Yes. So this is the Town of Falmouth project, in that clearing next to Shivricks Pond. It's sort of one of the first of many phases to be developed in that area. And ideally what they're proposing is an ADA compliant boardwalk to reach the water, as well as a viewing platform to be installed for folks to venture out on and fish and view the water. There is a provision that they're looking to potentially include also a seasonal kayak launch, and if that further develops, we would see an amended order for this project. I think that's about it.
Are they seeking a variance?
Yes, thank you. They are seeking a variance for the size of the platform in the water.
Okay. Mr. Chair, so the first thing we gotta do is vote the variance, right?
I don't know, do we need to separate it?
That's what we would usually do.
Okay. All right. So we'll have 2 votes then. So the first vote, well, the first motion I would entertain would be to grant the variance.
So move.
Second, Patton.
Okay, again, this is for the variance request first. Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
Okay, thank you. So the variance is granted. That's unanimous. The next motion would be to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
So move.
Thank you.
Patton second.
Thank you. Again, motion and a second to issue the order of conditions. Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have granted the variance and issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Jeffrey P. and Cynthia A. Andrews. 34, excuse me, 34 Wigwam Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Let me see here.
Sorry, the quorum excludes Maury and Melissa.
All right, yes, so some of the main features of this project include relocating the driveway to the main Wigwam Road side. On the area left and right of that, they are proposing some voluntary invasive species management and restoration. We talked in depth about that, how they are going to either take on the full project or not at all. They are also updating the septic components in that area. Couple minor changes to the property revolving around removing some walkways and the concrete dog run. They will be installing DCPC plantings as well as restoration plantings for the disturbance in the driveway from being in DCPC. Staff met on site with the applicants. We would request that the property lines are staked prior to this order being issued, so we will be going on site once they give us the okay, just to make sure that happened. Just so there's no encroachment onto other properties. We would recommend meeting on site with Maria Hickey prior to her restoration, just to verify the placement of the proposed trees. And I think that's all I had.
Thank you. I think you addressed this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have a note that, you know, it's got to be clear that the restoration project is all at once.
Correct. I did mention if they wanted to maybe phase it, you know, offer one side of the driveway as a phase and the other side as a phase, but they have stated it will either be all of it or none of it. So we can
Yeah, and
condition.
I don't think she implied she wanted to do it in phases, but or I should say, I don't think that was her intent, but you know, there was some implication made, so we clarified that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Anything anybody want to see in there? No? Okay. What are you thinking?
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's no other questions or comments, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, vote amended order of conditions. Mario Kula and Josephine D'Angelo, 9 Sycamore Street, Falmouth, Mass.
Thank you, yes.
And, sorry.
I keep
Quorum
cutting you off. It's okay.
excludes Maury and Melissa. No, I just think cover that up front.
Good call. So yes, this is the amended order for the home reconstruction at 9 Sycamore. That we had seen the project before, but they had changed the configuration of the house and parking area. The project is located in a velocity zone, which is why the home is going up on pilings. And they have provided us with our architecturals to review, as well as a landscape planting plan. I don't think there's too much more to say.
And again, they altered the size and the location to conform with zoning, correct?
Correct.
I mean, that was primarily the reason. So they made the house smaller
Mhm.
and they addressed parking that's required by zoning. So, yeah. Anything anybody want to see in addition or different than the order we've already issued? Okay.
No, thank you.
All right.
make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Gladfelter.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing else, all right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. And real quick before the last motion, there's no meeting next week. Hope you all have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for everything. Last motion, who wants it?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Pat and second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
And Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.